Imagine waking up to find more than $600 million in cryptocurrency vanished overnight. In August 2021, that nightmare became reality for Poly Network, a leading cross-chain bridge connecting Ethereum, Binance Smart Chain, and Polygon. This wasn't just another hack. It was the largest heist in decentralized finance history. A single hacker slipped through a hidden backdoor and seized $500 million of other people's money in mere seconds. Trust was on the line. If a platform designed to unite blockchains can be drained in an instant, every crypto user must ask, is my money safe? Let's dive in and uncover how this audacious exploit unfolded. Before we dive into the heart-pounding heist, let's meet the star of our story, Poly Network. At its core, Poly Network is a cross-chain protocol, a digital bridge that connects independent blockchains so tokens can move seamlessly from one to another. Imagine an international airport for cryptocurrencies. You land on Ethereum, hop across the tarmac, and take off on Binance Smart Chain or Polygon, all without stepping into a centralized exchange. Poly Network rose to prominence in mid-2021, becoming a vital piece of infrastructure in decentralized finance, or DeFi for short. DeFi means financial services built on public blockchains, where code replaces middlemen like banks. By July 2021, Poly Network had quietly facilitated over $10 billion in cross-chain transfers and held nearly $1 billion in user assets at any given moment. That's akin to a bustling airport handling thousands of passengers and millions of dollars in luggage, 24/7. Despite its huge traffic, Poly Network wasn't exactly a household name. Outside the crypto world, few had heard of it. But inside DeFi circles, it was the go-to solution for traders, yield farmers, and developers craving true interoperability. It promised to break down walls between blockchains, making finance truly borderless. And yet, that promise exposed a frightening truth. The more bridges you build, the more places there are for a thief to strike. With that foundation in mind, let's turn our attention to the vulnerability that opened Poly Network's gates. The questions to ponder upon is that how did a single hacker manage to seize over $500 million in mere seconds? To find out, we need to peek under the hood of Poly Network's technology. At its core, Poly Network was powered by a suite of smart contracts, self-executing programs on the blockchain that coordinated every vault, every transfer, and every cross-chain message. Think of each contract as a highly secure gate on a bridge. One gate locks assets on the origin chain, another mints tokens on the destination chain, all overseen by a keeper who holds the master key. Under normal operation, Poly's keeper address was controlled by a multi-signature authority. Only if a majority of validators signed off would assets move. But buried deep in that code was a fatal flaw. The attacker discovered that the function responsible for updating the keeper's address, essentially the master key manager, lacked any real access control. In other words, anyone could call this function with a specially forged cross-chain packet and change the keeper to any address of their choosing. This was the equivalent of a hidden door in a bank vault that anyone could open and use to appoint themselves bank manager. Armed with this insight, the hacker prepared a malicious payload, a crafted cross-chain message spoofing validator approval. When the contract executed, it ran the update keeper method, instantly replacing Poly Network's secure multi-sig address with the hacker's own wallet. At that moment, the vault's master key slid into the thief's hands. With keeper privileges seized, draining the vault became astonishingly simple. The attacker invoked standard transfer methods, normally guarded by multiple signers, but now fully authorized as the keeper. One by one, they emptied every token balance: Ethereum, Binance Coin, stablecoins, wrapped tokens, emphatically everything. The entire process took less than 5 minutes. Imagine finding a hidden lever inside a high-security vault labeled Change Manager, pulling it, typing in your own name, then watching the vault doors swing open at your command. That's precisely what happened. On August 10th, 2021, shortly after 8:45 a.m. UTC, the hacker sent these final calls to the smart contracts. and Poly Network's treasure chest lay empty. With the vault pried open, the world's eyes turned to block explorers, where anyone could track the flood of hundreds of millions of dollars streaming out in real time. The dominoes had fallen, and there was no going back. Next, we'll see how Poly Network and the wider crypto community scrambled to stop the bleeding and set the stage for an unprecedented public showdown. The Poly Network heist didn't happen in some shadowy corner. It played out live on public blockchains for everyone to see. On August 10th, 2021, just after 8:45 a.m. UTC, 3 wallet addresses burst into action. The hacker's Ethereum address swallowed 2,158 ETH, roughly $267 million. Their Binance Smart Chain wallet grabbed 6,610 BNB, about $252 million. And a Polygon address netted $85 million in U.S.C and other tokens. In under 10 minutes, an astonishing $610 million had vanished, and the world watched it happen in real time. Within hours, Poly Network's team sounded the alarm. At 4 a.m. ET, they tweeted,
Quote, "Important notice. We are sorry to announce that Poly Network was attacked on Binance Chain, Ethereum, and Polygon. Assets had been transferred to hackers' following addresses, followed by the addresses in the tweet." End quote.
This was a desperate cry for help to miners, validators, and exchanges everywhere. The response was nothing short of breathtaking. Tether immediately froze $33 million of stolen USDT, effectively quarantining part of the loot. Major exchanges raced to lock down suspicious tokens. Even Binance's CEO, Changpeng Zhao, CZ, tweeted, quote, "While no one controls BSC or ETH, we are coordinating with all our security partners to proactively help. There are no guarantees. We will do as much as we can." End quote. It was the entire crypto industry uniting to trap a single thief. Meanwhile, blockchain security firms sprang into action. Slomis claimed they'd uncovered the hacker's email address, IP location, and even a device fingerprint. Breadcrumbs dropped in the attacker's retreat. Block explorers like Etherscan and BSCscan turned into live force of nature dashboards, mapping each transfer, each mixer transaction, each bid to launder the stolen funds. By day's end, Poly Network faced a stark choice: continue fighting a losing battle, or extend an olive branch to the hacker and try to reclaim what was lost. What happened next would blur the line between criminal and collaborator and set the stage for one of the most unprecedented negotiations in crypto history. With the hack in full swing, Poly Network tried something unconventional: opening a public dialogue with the hacker. On August 11th, Poly Network published an open letter to the attacker on Twitter and across their platforms, imploring them to return the assets. The message was part respectful appeal, part stern warning.
Quote, "Law enforcement in any country will regard this as a major economic crime, and you will be pursued." End quote.
The letter cautioned. The team urged the hacker to work with them, even suggesting the incident could be resolved amicably. To everyone's astonishment, the hacker responded, and not through a private channel or encrypted email. They replied on-chain, embedding messages in Ethereum transactions for all to read. What unfolded was a surreal Ask Me Anything style exchange between the hacker, soon nicknamed Mr. White Hat, and the world, conducted via coded notes in transaction data. Crypto users watched live as the attacker answered questions and mused about their motives. When asked why they hacked Poly Network, the hacker's initial response was startlingly flippant.
"For fun. Cross-chain hacking is hot."
It sounded like a prankster's boast. But then the attacker claimed nobler intentions. They insisted they never planned to keep the money, and that the escapade was meant to expose a severe security flaw before worse actors found it.
"When spotting the bug, I had a mixed feeling,"
the hacker wrote.
"Ask yourself, what to do if you face so much fortune? I can trust nobody. The only solution I could come up with was saving it in a trusted account."
In other words, they claim to have taken the money to protect it from potential real bad actors. In one embedded message, the hacker declared,
"Now everyone smells a sense of conspiracy. I am not very interested in money. I take the responsibility to expose the vulnerability before any insiders hiding and exploiting it.
The public was both fascinated and skeptical. Was this mysterious figure truly a benevolent white hat hacker, or simply trying to cover their tracks once cashing out $600 million proved too risky? Security experts weighed in. Tom Robinson, chief scientist at Elliptic, noted that returning the funds demonstrates that even if you can steal crypto assets, laundering them and cashing out is extremely difficult due to the transparency of the blockchain. In other words, the hacker may have realized there was no easy way to spend that money without being traced. The hacker even cheekily asked for tips on using Tornado Cash, a crypto mixing service, at one point, suggesting they had considered laundering some of the loot. They also vented frustration at Poly Network's initial panic, admitting,
I was pissed by the Poly team for their response.
And selling some stolen stablecoins out of annoyance. Clearly, emotions were running high in this bizarre negotiation. In a final twist, Poly Network began addressing the attacker as Mr. White Hat, the term for an ethical hacker who exposes vulnerabilities to improve security. They extended an astonishing olive branch, a $500,000 bug bounty, and a position as chief security advisor if the funds were returned. It was essentially, give it back and we'll pay you, and maybe even hire you. The rationale was simple. Better to have this skilled individual as an ally than an enemy. And if the story couldn't get any wilder, Mr. Whitehat seemed hesitant to even claim the reward. In a final on-chain message, the hacker stated,
The Poly team did offer a bounty, but I have never responded to them. Instead, I will send all of their money back.
It was clear the hacker wasn't motivated by a $500,000 payout. They simply wanted to do the right thing, no matter how convoluted. Whether that claim was genuine or strategic, one fact stood out. The hacker was willing to return the funds. This unlikely standoff had transformed into a strange collaboration. The stage was now set for Act 3 of this saga, the astonishing return of $610 million in crypto and the relief of thousands of anxious Poly Network users. In an unprecedented reversal of fate, the stolen funds began making their way back to Poly Network. It started with small sums on August 11th, then gathered steam. By August 12th, about $258 million had been returned. The hacker sent tokens back in batches. First, the less controversial assets like stablecoins and obscure tokens, while holding on to others as they negotiated details with Poly Network. To make this possible, Poly Network provided the attacker with multi-signature wallet addresses controlled jointly by the hacker and Poly's team. This clever trust-building measure meant neither side could move the remaining funds alone. On August 13th, Poly Network announced that $340 million worth of assets had been returned, and the bulk of the rest had been stashed in the new joint multi-sig wallet awaiting final release. The only portion still out of reach was the roughly $33 million in USDT, still frozen by Tether. Poly Network, now referring to the hacker as Mr. White Hat in official statements, publicly thanked them for helping improve Poly Network's security. It was a surreal moment, a platform praising the very person who had robbed them days before. But as the funds inched toward full restoration, Poly leaned into the narrative of an ethical hacker. August 15, 2021, saw Poly Network declare,
Formally, we thank Mr. White Hat for his cooperation in helping us improve Poly Network's security.
The final act of this grand saga unfolded over the next 2 weeks. The hacker and Poly Network coordinated the return of the remaining tranches of crypto. By August 25th, the last missing piece, the keys needed to unlock the multi-sig wallet, were handed over. With that, Poly Network regained access to virtually all of the $610 million in assets, aside from the frozen USDT. Once Poly confirmed every coin was back where it belonged, Tether unfroze the 33 million USDT as well. In the end, every dollar's worth of the stolen cryptocurrency was returned or rendered unusable to the thief. No users suffered any loss. An almost unheard-of happy ending for such a massive hack. Poly Network even set aside the promised $500,000 bounty for Mr. White Hat, but he refused to claim it, saying the thrill of the hack and perhaps the goodwill earned, was reward enough. Instead, he suggested the bounty be donated to the tech community. As the dust settled, Mr. Whitehat's identity remained a secret. He vanished from the spotlight, leaving only a brief note.
I trust the Poly team to handle security improvements. And I'm done.
And just like that, one of the wildest capers in crypto history came to a close. Poly Network reclaimed its treasure. Users breathed a collective sigh of relief. The hacker rode off into the sunset without facing immediate consequences. Some even hailed him as a hero. But the story doesn't end here. The Poly Network hack sent shockwaves through the industry, sparking critical debates on security, trust, and how to prevent the next $600 million crisis. The Poly Network incident was a watershed moment, sending shockwaves through the tech and finance worlds. The immediate reaction in the crypto community was a mix of amazement, praise, and concern. Many were thrilled that the funds were returned, a rare good news outcome for a major hack. Poly Network's decision to treat the attacker as a white hat and even offer a bounty struck some as pragmatic, but it also raised thorny questions about rewarding criminals. Security experts and ethical hackers were sharply divided. Some applauded Poly's creative resolution, others warned it set a dangerous precedent. Katie Paxton Fear, a respected white hat hacker, blasted the move. Labeling this hack as a white hat is really disappointing. To many in cybersecurity, calling a $600 million theft ethical hacking was a huge stretch. After all, user funds were put at extreme risk. There was genuine fear that future attackers might cite this case to demand immunity or rewards. Meanwhile, regulators and law enforcement refused to hail the hacker as a hero.
Private companies have no authority to promise immunity from criminal prosecution,
warned Charlie Steele, former DOJ official. He added that this incident, despite the fund's return, will only heighten regulatory concerns about crypto's Wild West reputation. In fact, just 1 week before the hack, SEC Chairman Gary Gensler had ominously likened crypto to the Wild West and signaled tougher oversight. The Poly saga became emphatically Exhibit A in calls for stronger DeFi regulation and security standards. Within the blockchain developer community, the exploit triggered intense soul-searching. Cross-chain bridges like Poly Network emerged as painfully vulnerable points of failure. The industry realized that rapid innovation in DeFi must never come at the expense of security. The once famous mantra, "move fast and break things," suddenly felt reckless when $600 million could vanish in seconds. Many DeFi projects announced emergency reviews of their cross-chain code, determined to avoid a repeat disaster.
Poly Network itself moved swiftly to rebuild trust.
Immediately after recovering the assets, the team published a detailed post-mortem and unveiled a comprehensive security roadmap to shore up defenses. They enlisted top auditors and security firms to scrutinize their smart contracts line by line. Then, on August 17, 2021, Poly launched a global bug bounty on Immunify, offering up to $100,000 for any critical vulnerability, and a total bounty pool of $500,000. Their goal? To encourage white hat hackers and security agencies to audit core functions proactively. Because if this program had existed earlier, the exploit might have been reported, not weaponized. The wider DeFi industry took heed. Many projects raised bounties, some exceeding $1 million, and formal security audits became standard protocol. The mantra, "don't trust, verify," took on new urgency. The Poly Network hack underscored a stark truth. Code is law, and a single flaw can have law-sized consequences. One silver lining emerged. Blockchain transparency itself helped rescue the situation. Investigators traced stolen funds in real time. Exchanges blacklisted tainted addresses, and even the hacker chose to communicate on-chain, leaving a public record. Unlike a bank heist hidden in shadows, this was a theft with a getaway car visible to all, which ultimately boxed the attacker in. By late 2021, Poly Network had resumed operations with new guardrails on cross-chain calls. No more anything goes messages. With its Immunify program in place, Poly invited continuous scrutiny, turning past pain into a permanent defense. The hack, as brutal as it was, forced Poly and its peers to fortify their systems and hopefully prevent the next mega breach. The Poly Network saga offers a treasure trove of lessons for the crypto world. First and foremost, security isn't an option, it's a necessity. The sheer scale of this hack was a wake-up call. showing how one tiny vulnerability in a smart contract can send cascading shockwaves across multiple blockchains. Yes, we got lucky. The attacker chose to return the funds, but luck is no strategy. For every benevolent hacker, there may be another who simply walks away with hundreds of millions. Going forward, we must assume attackers will not be so generous.
Some of the key lessons that one can learn from all this are:
Lesson 1. Rigor in smart contract development. DeFi projects must adopt formal verification, peer reviews, and extensive testing, especially for cross-chain bridges, where complexity skyrockets. The Poly exploit wasn't a quantum-level attack. It was a logic flaw that careful auditing would have caught. From now on, teams are doubling down on code audits, hackathons, and even competitions to stress test contracts long before real money is on the line. As one expert quipped, the hacker essentially found an exploit that allowed him to have the contract just send the funds to himself, a scenario that should never pass muster.
Lesson 2. Incident response and community collaboration.
Poly Network's recovery proved the power of network effects. Exchanges blacklisting addresses, stablecoin issuers freezing tokens, and law enforcement threats all combined to corner the thief. In future crises, rapid coordination can similarly limit damage. DeFi may be code is law, but when disaster strikes, human channels, Twitter appeals, on-chain AMAs, public letters can make all the difference. Negotiating on the blockchain might sound odd, but here, it worked.
Lesson 3. Ethical hacking incentives.
Offering large bug bounties, paying hackers to report bugs rather than exploit them, gained huge momentum. After seeing $610 million flash before their eyes, projects realized it's far cheaper to pay a $100K or $1 million bounty than to pick up the pieces afterward. Expect more aggressive bounty programs and even insurance funds to protect users when things go wrong. Looking ahead, there's cautious optimism. The Poly hack sparked new verification tools, wider use of multi-signature controls, and tighter limits on what bridges can do. Regulators are paying attention, and we may see security standards or certifications for DeFi protocols.
In the end, there is still a big question: that are these cryptocurrencies are actually as secure as they claim? Should one even think of investing their hard-earned money in these cryptocurrencies? Is it a wise decision, or it is just a big pumper game? And at the end, it's just another example of a bigger fool theory, where the market keeps on growing as long as there is some bigger fool is ready to buy from you on a higher price. I will leave the answer of this question to you guys, as you can think and explore it yourself.
If you found this deep dive into the Poly network hack insightful, smash that like button and subscribe for more real-life cybercrime and hacking stories. This channel brings you compelling tales from the world of tech, and trust me, there's always more to uncover. Subscribe so you don't miss our next episode, where we'll explore another jaw-dropping story very soon.